What do you prioritize more? People liking you or your life's purpose? If you knew you could have everything you wanted if you just believed, would you take the first step or wait another 10 years? Here on the SDR&R podcast, we tackle everything holding us back. America, fuck yeah! Coming down to save the motherfucking day, yeah, America, fuck yeah! Such a great song. It's not exactly rock and roll, but you know, it's rock and roll enough, I think, to warrant an inclusion in our rock and roll podcast. So that is, of course, the America Fuck Yeah song, famously put into the Team America World Police movie. I think it came out around 2005 or so, but it was the South Park guys with this very strange, totally politically incorrect movie with puppets. And I wonder how it would be received these days if that movie came out now. But anyway, why did we pick that song for this week's podcast? So this week's podcast is being filmed actually on Independence Day, so good old July 4th. And, you know, I wanted to talk a bit about American sort of culture and entrepreneurship and where we come from and what we as a people seem to embody, because we're different. America is quite different from the rest of the world, especially when it comes to entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship and risk-taking and sort of the melting pot of all these different cultures that we get to have, which is great. So there's a lot of books that I've read recently that talk about these things, and we get into actually the genetics of Americans. But I do really want to talk about this because not a lot of people know. And I think it's also important to kind of, you know, be proud of our differences and how we come at the world and everything. So let's hop right in. America, fuck yeah. One thing is, if you think about, this is largely based off of, not based, but I'm regurgitating information from this great book called The Hypomanic Edge. I would highly recommend it. It is cool as shit. It's funny. It's an American historical book. I think you would really enjoy it. This author, who was a geneticist, noticed he was looking at American genes. And across all races, there's differences in American genes. Seems strange, but there really are. So these differences genetically, if you think about it, the first United States settlers, they were very unique people from all of the countries that they came from. So these settlers were willing to, get this, pick up their entire family, go into a boat that they could very likely die in, okay, for months at a time, to this new land that had, at the time, they believed savages. Obviously, they weren't savages, with oftentimes no money to their name, right? And they didn't even know if money would do anything when they went to the new world. They were going to take their whole family, they were going to uproot themselves from everything they ever knew, all of their social ties, and they were going to go to this entirely new continent, sail over there for months. They could get sick, they could get shipwrecked, the elements could destroy the ship. They didn't know anything, right? And then they would go to America, and then they would set up shop and meet whoever they meet and try to open a business, you know, figure out how to make a bunch of money and make a living. How cool is that, right? That's incredible. If somebody came to you these days and said, hey, I got this great idea. I'm going to, go to another continent. I'm going to take my whole family. I don't know what's out there, but it sounds great. Like, these are our great-great-grandparents. You know, these are not far removed from us and our generation. I mean, I guess it's more than great-great, but it's in that realm, right? So the people that founded America, the genes in these people that founded America were such that they were so ridiculously risk tolerant that they were willing to do these insane things and then start a new life. Okay? So we've got those genes. A lot of us do, not all of us, but a lot of us have those genes. That book, Hypomanic Edge, talks a lot about a lot of these, founding fathers, one of which is Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton. He goes into that story, which, I actually haven't watched the Broadway play. It's on Disney, and I really need to watch it, but I'm sure it's amazing because his life story is so very epic and unbelievable. But he had that, what this author is calling hypomanic edge, which is to say he was a little crazy, like not crazy, but like borderline, like on the crazy spectrum a little bit, right? And he would take enormous, colossal risks. But he came from a very impoverished family, and it was like just him and his brother, I think, and his mom. If you look at where he started and where he ended up, incredible success. That's just utterly mind-blowing. And this author is saying that Americans, embedded literally in the genetics of America, is this entrepreneurial culture, way of life, obviously genes, like we have these special abilities and drawbacks too. We have a strong tendency for independence, independent thinking, doing stuff on our own, muscling through things, working insane hours, like obsessing over a new bit of technology or a new, startup or project or what have you, And we are extremely risk tolerant compared to the rest of the world. We actually applaud those risks. And when it pans out for them, we're like, heck yeah, great for you, true American over there. And when it fails for them, we're very forgiving compared to other countries and cultures. A lot of other cultures are extremely conformist, right? So they come to sort of this collective groupthink understanding of what's good and how you should live your life and what's too risky and what's bad, such that, young men and women would be too afraid to take any risks because they might get shunned or shamed or, God forbid, outcasted, right? And that's very sad to me because to me, those people are probably have the capability of being total badass, amazing entrepreneurs that can give these gifts to the world that no one else can. So yeah, I'm really proud of that. As an American and having these characteristics myself, I'm very proud of that. We are risk tolerant. What does that mean? Being risk tolerant is to not throw caution to the wind. You want to take calculated risks, but when you come at a business opportunity, there's going to be some vulnerability there and uncertainty. You don't know exactly how it's going to pan out. If you're an entrepreneur and you're starting something new, by default, you're not going to know how the market's going to react. You're not going to know how that product is going to work necessarily. You have a good idea, but you don't know for sure because no one's ever done that before. So I'm talking like world-changing stuff here. The internet, right? The old NASA program that we were looking at. I mean, these are incredibly risky things that people have been successful at, and it's amazing. It's truly amazing. So there's cons to this too. And this book about the hypomanic edge, it talks about what he calls hypomania and those tendencies. It's kind of a much lower level version of, I guess, bipolar, where you can kind of get obsessive over things and you can go for days or even weeks at a time just completely focusing intently on this one project and doing an incredible superhuman job of this one thing, and the flip side of that, the sort of drawback to that, is that usually when people go into these sort of zen or flow states for a long period of time and then they stop, they need to like pull way back and sort of go into a cave and kind of return to the well and rejuvenate themselves, So, boy, I certainly feel that those changes, those dynamic changes in myself. There are times in my company where I can totally kick ass and focus on, what needs to be focused on and grow the shit out of the company. And then I gotta take a step back and go into another state of mind for a while just to rejuvenate, that back up. Alexander Hamilton wrote the Federalist Papers back then, which was pretty amazing stuff, and it really had to do with a lot of the ways that our laws were written. He was chugging out insane amounts of well-written content to the point where, it was like hundreds of pages a day of like written stuff, which is just astounding. Even by today's standards, because they had to get it out so quickly, and that was a strategy of his, politically and socioeconomically, to start up the whole, the Federal Reserve Bank and, all of these amazing things, the debt system, which at the time was very novel, very modern. He did all of that in a very short amount of time. I think it was like 3 months or something. And after that, he had to go into his cave for a long time. Hypomania, you can be very charming, you can be obsessive, you can be extremely focused. And oftentimes these people are a little bit aloof, and they're not exactly understood, I don't think, by, everyone else necessarily. They might be a little callous, or prioritizing certain things like their own success, God forbid, over, maybe relationships. There's another book too called Driven. This actually gets into those genetic qualities to entrepreneurs. This is really cool stuff. So he's thinking that there are these two gene alleles. He calls it the DR2 and the DR4. He maps these out a lot in the book. Basically what he's arguing is that most of human history included situations in the daily lives of most of human, for millions of years, that predated agrarian culture. And that just means, predated us, planting our food, right? Before that, before we could plant stuff and harvest it, the world was a scary place. We could, run out of food. We had to kill beasts and eat them. We had to constantly watch and be prepared for any contingency that can happen, okay? So if you imagine the type of human being that evolved in that environment, which is totally different from our environment now. My God, Uber Eats, which is just a recent technology, right? But before that, we had to be mindful. We had to be concerned about our own survival on a day-to-day basis. After we started, planting food and getting a lot of our nutrients from harvests, these genes, these gene alleles, DR2 and DR4, started to kind of die out. We still have them, but it's something like 10% of the population or less has them right now. These genes are so powerful and so different that they are actually screening for them now, apparently, with the Navy SEALs. They find like a 10 times more likelihood chance that a person with these genes, DR2 and DR4, or one or the other, will survive and flourish and thrive in the Navy SEAL insane training environment and regimen. So they're almost going so far, apparently, as to exclude people that don't have those genes for the Navy SEALs program because they think there's such a low likelihood of them being able to succeed. These genes include a high risk tolerance. You are not risk averse. These genes, you can see them activated in the environment because you're very risk tolerant. You're also very aware, you're hyper aware of the goings on in the world, and you're focused on these things. You can't really relax like most other people can relax. Like you're always looking for an edge. You're always looking to improve things and do things better, which to me, again, sounds great. But there are a lot of people, and from the sound of it, the vast majority of people don't always want to be improving and don't want to always be making things better and fixing stuff. They want to just like relax and, Relationships, I think, is a great example. That most people, I get the impression, want to hit a level of taking care of one another where you can just kind of coast, you just hit a plateau and that's good. Like, we don't need to improve this. We're just going to lock this in, dial it in, and that's it. For me, like, nope, I need to always be improving. I want to be seeking more, and optimizing and betterment and all of that. And that's fun for me. And it's also, I feel stifled if I'm held down and put in a situation where I'm needing to stay the same. If you were to tell me, hey, I'm going to give you this life, you'll be making 5 times what you make now, guaranteed, and your job will be the same exact job every day, 5 days a week for the next 20 years. I wouldn't agree to that for the next 1 year because it sounds very boring. And I would want the ability to thrive and optimize and make things more efficient, But that's not for everybody. That's kind of a manifestation of these genes. Yes, you can check them with like 23andMe or whatever. I think it's important to have some language to be able to communicate this to ourselves and certainly all of our, friends and family and coworkers, quite frankly. That's one way to be, and it's a great way to be. But there are also, I've had a lot of people that that I've been with or have worked with that are quite different, that are very risk averse and want a predictable day in, day out, no change, no chaos schedule and life and everything. And I value that from them because of their differences. It's important for me also to take breaks here and there. And I feel like those types of people can keep the ship going oftentimes better than I can when I'm taking a break, and kick me, say, hey, you've been focused on this for 6 months now. You need to step back and we need to calm the chaos, right? So I just want to do a couple more points on this. This is an interesting topic from the political view, and I really don't want to get political on this podcast much because very, very, very few of us are able to influence in any measurable way the outcome of these political things. So that said, these genes are very interesting politically. There is, of course, a right-wing movement against allowing immigrants into the United States. I think that's a mistake because literally the fabric of American society, the genetics are these people, these immigrants, historically, that have had these types of genes that want to go out and of their own independent, sweat off their backs, work ethic and focus and determination and fucking grit to get things done and make something out of nowhere that did not exist before, right? This is a brilliant thing. These people are like the salt of the earth, and I am so impressed by them. And if an immigrant is willing to leave everything that they know and take their family and work their ass off, I feel like those are wonderful people that we should absolutely allow into our country and our citizenship and all of this, because that's who we are. America is built with immigrants that were badass immigrants and from all different races and cultural backgrounds. That's who we are. As a lawyer, I've seen a lot of immigration work, and it's very odd to me that we're turning away a lot of these people because they are badass. Okay, so on the other side of this is what I think is kind of a liberal mistake. Another side of America is, independence, making your own decisions, and having the ability to largely control your business and things. I am not a fan of a lot of regulation as it comes to physical economic policies. I think things should be allowed to sort of, I think the free market does often largely work itself out. And I don't believe that all of this influx of cash that we've received from, the PPP loans and the EIDL loans and all of this that happened during and after COVID, I think that has really created this strange system economically that we're looking at. Obviously, inflation has occurred because we printed so much money. Obviously we need to print money. That's been going on. That's actually what Alexander Hamilton set up, that the whole debt system and our ability to, print money, even though it's not backed by a gold bar, right? He got us off the gold standard. And I think that was brilliant. I think that a bit of American culture and entrepreneurship requires a more free market. It doesn't have to be completely free, but I don't think it should be as regulated as it is. I have noticed in my experience, and I'm not an economist, and I am a lawyer, so I have an advanced degree in that has to do with laws and politics. But in my opinion, coming from that perspective, we regulate too much. And I think that entrepreneurs should be allowed to, make their own business decisions more and have to compete with regulatory agencies when it comes to fiscal policy. So, free market. America, fuck yeah, entrepreneurship, independence, grit, work ethic, all of these things. I love this country. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Yeah, we have problems. We absolutely do. But I think it's really important to note that despite all of our problems, which we do have, people all over the world absolutely want to be American citizens. Many, millions, tens of millions of people want to enter the United States and share in this culture that we've built, this way of life, our laws, our entrepreneurial tendencies and all of that. And that's fucking awesome, and we ought to be proud of that. So happy 4th of July. I know it's a little belated for you guys, but this is being recorded on the 4th of July. I got my 4th of July wardrobe and my Tommy Hilfiger watch. So I'm Jonathan Sparks with Sparks Law. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll talk next week. Keep rocking and rolling, guys. See ya. If you enjoyed this podcast and you want to hear more, check us out on jonathansparksmusic.com, JONATHAN sparksmusic.com. Please like and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We love you guys. We'll talk soon.